Welcome to Journaling with Nature, the podcast for those who want to turn curiosity into wonder, a pencil sketch into a rabbit hole of discovery, a moment of stillness into a life full of joy. I'm your host, Bethan Burton. Let's open the pages of our nature journals and explore this world together. Hello, this is episode 92. First thing I want to say is that this episode is dedicated to my dear friend Kate. Kate, I love you. Let my voice carry you whenever you need. I'm here. Today I have a very special guest. I'm speaking with the incredibly inspiring grandmother of nature journaling, Clare Walker Leslie. Clare's book, Keeping a Nature Journal, was the book that introduced me to nature journaling all those years ago and has been an inspiration to countless other people over the years. Clare started nature journaling in 1978 and has written more than a dozen books on the subject. This recording was originally made for International Nature Journaling Week, and it was a video call that Clare and I did together. You'll notice that Clare shows me things during this conversation, talks about tools that she likes, and holds up her journal pages and books that she's written. Of course, you can't see these while listening to the podcast, but you can watch the whole video conversation on the International Nature Journaling Week website. Go to the show notes for this episode and you'll find the link to the video there. Clare talks about the origins of how she started nature journaling and how she began writing books, sharing this beautiful practice with a much wider audience. She talks about how nature has been a solace during difficult times and the people, places and things that have made it onto her pages over these past 44 years that she's been keeping a nature journal. Let's listen. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Shall we start? Oh, goodness me.
Yeah. On your mark.
On your
Get
mark.
set. No, I've never been to Australia, but I'd like to.
Yes.
I've been to New Zealand.
If you come to Australia, I'm going to show you some beautiful things.
Yeah, and I have a koala on my May calendar right here, which
Do
is
you?
actually, yes, symbolic, because I looked at this koala and the koala said, go for it. So it was my good luck charm.
Okay, well, I've got heaps and heaps of questions for you, and I know you've got heaps of things to show. But I always, as a way of like orienting and getting comfortable and to know my guest, I love to hear about early nature experiences. And I wonder if you had nature in your childhood.
Well, Bethan, I give talks a lot, and everybody has a different story. I grew up in, a small town where we walked everywhere. We had one car. No, I wasn't into nature. I was roller skating like everybody else. I was not one of these, early bug lovers. But I was an early drawer. I drew everything, but it was lamps and cats and people and stuff like that. I was a very early musician because that's what my family was doing. But the summers we were outside riding bicycles. I think it was a way of life that just isn't anymore. I didn't think of myself as being a nature lover. We lived in it. So that I have nothing to tell you about, because I went on to college in Minnesota, never went outside. I was in the music department the whole time. And now when I go back to Minnesota, of course, I love it. But it wasn't until after college that I was teaching art. And this was the 60s, where you were dark and depressed and you were indoors and pretty disconnected from nature. But I had a friend who was teaching in the science department who every weekend was out birding and hiking. And she was a very upbeat person. And I thought, there's something about her way of life that I'm missing. So my connection really to the natural world was very personal. And it was after college. And I got to know people who knew their birds, knew their plants, knew their insects. And it was like addictive. I couldn't stop. But what happened was I gave up my music. And I stopped drawing people in lampshades. I helped to start an environmental school in the 1970. So this is a long time ago. And I did weaving as it related to nature. I did pottery as it related to nature. This was the height of the hippies. It was also, I have to really emphasize, this was when we felt like we could save the earth. Earth Day, we were all euphoric. We were studying Native American literature. Things were very positive. And also, very hippie-ish. So at this environmental school, I gradually realized that the best connection to nature and the most direct was drawing. So I stopped the weaving, I stopped the printmaking, which I had been doing. I stopped all these other forms and focused on drawing. And it was birds. It was birds that became my real door into the natural world. And then oddly enough, I was asked, in the process, I got married to a guy who liked to be outside. And I was teaching nature drawing in various different places when an editor of Prentice Hall asked me to write a book, which you may have, called Nature Drawing, A Tool for Learning.
I do have this book.
That is, this book. And it's actually pretty well written. I really like it because even though I had a hard time in school, I know how to write. And so this editor wrote me, I'll never forget, wrote me a letter saying, we'd like you to write a book on nature drawing. This was 1978. There was nothing like it. And however, I really have to underline, and it's in various of my books, I did have the opportunity to study with the amazing, amazing people in England, Scotland, and Sweden. They are my mentors. And, people wrote letters back then. We didn't have computers. How I ended up for free living with Eric Enion, and then John Busby, and then Gunnar Brusewitz. All I am doing now today is based on the teaching I got from Britain and Sweden. And so that went into this nature drawing book. It was a very easy book to write because I majored in art history. And so I knew where to get the illustrations. And back then you could write a museum in Germany and for $10 get a photograph. I mean, things have really, really changed. Was this done on a computer? No, it was done on a portable typewriter. Did we have photocopy? No. We had Mimeo. And I think that's sort of my problem today, is that I haven't caught up because it worked back then. So the nature drawing book came out heavier in its manuscript than our son, who's now 42. And then I decided I like doing books, so I did a book a year. So there is this one. And then, in thanks to Eric Enion, I wrote the nature drawing book, which is really everything from him. Then John Busby, it's the art of field sketching. And then I did several other books. And then I got together with a science educator and published the Nature Journal book.
Yes, this is the book that I got when I first came to nature journaling around 2011. It was this book that was like my introduction, and an amazing eye-opening experience was opening the pages of that book.
You could get it in Australia, or did you get it online?
I think I got it online, but I'm sure you can get it in Australia.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I to quickly say to all of you folks out there, and also this Nature Journaling Week, yes, I am the grandmother of nature journaling.
Yes, so you went outdoors with your first nature journal 1978, which was the year before I was born. So 44 years ago. And you've been doing it. You've been doing it all this time. You have a stack of 55 nature journals. And yeah, I just feel really honored to be here with you.
Well, no, you shouldn't be, because I'm still learning. I love it. I was out today with a friend. Here are my grandkids, because they're also included in this. Everybody's nature journal is different. Mine, when I format it and teach it, it's time, date, place, weather, and all that stuff. But I do, photographs. Here's a yellow-breasted chat that we happen to have that's very, very unusual. I quickly took a picture of that. Then I was with friends drawing their owls.
Wow.
This is my companion, this journal. And I could go through, I thought I had clips, but I do a lot of writing. And my husband and I were in Vermont during COVID, and I did a lot of recording of just the state of the world.
Yes.
State of the exterior, the environment, the pandemic. I just heard from my son. He's recovering from COVID. His wife now has COVID.
Oh, dear.
I spent the day with this wonderful friend of mine out birding, really wishing we could do this all the time, because nature is a solace. And so I've been fortunate in that these books have been really successful. So, I mean, you probably know there's the Curious whatever it's called, the Curious Nature Guide, Drawn to Nature, but they are all, Betham, from my journals. These all have come. And then the Nature Connection as a workbook.
I have this one too.
Well, it's been translated into a bunch of different languages. And I think what I noticed in looking online with a lot of your people, beautiful, beautiful pieces. You can do whatever you want. And I'm in touch with a lovely woman from Japan.
Yes,
that's the success that's the success of the Nature Journal. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want. Although the point I make when I'm teaching is, and it, borderlines with me, this is not a diary. This is not a personal, I'm upset with my kids and I want to run away sort of thing. It is, and that's where this book really, I don't know whether you have this one.
Yes, I do. I have it right here.
Hello.
I think I love all your books and I have a number of them, but this one speaks to me so much. And I think that this one is so relevant at the moment. I think the world and the population is going through this time of just such overwhelm and exhaustion. And this book shows us that nature can ease that. Nature can be a place to go to settle and calm when things feel all at sea. And I think something special about this is that all the pages are your pages. I mean, your other books are your words interspersed with snippets from your journal, but this is actually your journal and it's beautiful.
I spend so much intense time on every single book that when I'm finished, I don't remember exactly why I did them or how I did them. Because this one is not by the publisher that I've been doing it, and it has a story in and of itself. But I love it. It's one of my favorites. And I also think, I was talking with a friend today who's a book writer. I write books as resources for other people.
Yes.
I am a teacher. And if these books can be companions to you, then we share something. I have complete humility. And the humility really has to do with, I am so fortunate with the people I studied from.
Can you tell me a little about this journey of going there and learning from your mentors?
Well, I think, I'm 75 and my husband is not well. I'm going through a lot of family struggles. And back then, I was just all naivety. I was newly married, but I wanted to study with this guy. And he was a parent, as was John Busby. And the other thing was they showed me a way of seeing. And I draw everything. I don't just draw plants. And in fact, I think I shared with you, I don't draw plants very well. My passion.
Disagree, but I do know your focus is birds.
My focus is birds. And I'm just going to show you. Yeah. This is the other thing that I started to show you.
Yes. This is from today.
Yeah. I draw in many places. I mean, where I am now is where I work. I mean, you can see behind me is this huge pile of resource books, every single book that's been used. And that's why I wanted to do it here in Cambridge rather than Vermont. My husband's about to watch a basketball game, so I'm being fast. But I draw in the car. And it's almost like a haiku. I also have an exhibition of paintings that are much more detailed. But my journal, and I think we all find this is my friend.
Yes.
This is my companion. And just to give people an idea, it's hardbound. And this is what I carry in the car. It's a bag. And also the Europeans make fun of the Americans for all the fancy stuff they have. And I've spent years out on sea cliffs off the coast of Scotland drawing seabirds. And you cannot have a lot of equipment because you may lose it. So there's the journal that goes in there. The binoculars. The one field guide that I do take into the field is a bird book that I do draw from to get, the different wing bars. And then this is my magic bag. And I know a lot of people, and Erica, a lot of people with John Muir laws, John Muir laws.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, of course. He was a student of mine when he was 18. So I've seen him grow up.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's a very cool guy. I like him a lot. I've taught actually together with him. We're very similar. But he has people using those brushes that
brush
have
pen,
water.
Water brush, yes.
Yeah. Is that what you use?
No, I don't like them.
No, I don't like them.
I prefer just to use, I use a travel brush and a little tiny container. So again, I like to have simple things. I can't find my brush right now, but this is a little water container that I use and it squishes down.
Yep.
But I've tried water brushes. I just don't like them. I don't feel they're my style.
And again, this was the wonderful thing about Eric Enion and John Busby. Use whatever you have around.
Yeah.
I mean, Eric Enion had us painting on the backs of envelopes.
Yes.
And he used old brushes, so that I actually, well, here, this is my travel bag. And I use a variety of pens, felt tip pens. Oh, I love ballpoints because, they get wet, it doesn't matter. And kids have ballpoints. I do use technical pens, but do you like them?
I do. That's my go-to. And I tend to use those instead of a pencil because I want to force myself to not be able to erase. And I just have become really comfortable with just going straight in with the pen on my journal page.
Brilliant. And I find with students that, of course I have them use pencil, but when they use pen, they just look more carefully. And I use pen because in my journal, pencil just doesn't show up well. And the reason that I use pen, and it's primarily, I don't know if you can even see this, but it's a, what is it called? A razor point.
Okay.
They're hard to find. It's just a felt tip pen, Pilot razor point. Or there's another one that's a little bit bigger, which is the Pilot fine liner. But I use ballpoint because, and this is where Jack and I differ, and I think many people differ, is that you will see in my journals, I'm mostly using colored pencil.
Okay.
Where did my journal go? Well, no, I take it back. I mean, sometimes I do watercolor, and I find watercolor is fine in these journals. Oh yeah, it's in here. But the advantage of, do you use colored pencil?
I have done, but it's definitely not my go-to. My go-to is watercolor.
Yeah. Well, the advantage I find with colored pencil,
beautiful,
is that I don't have to fuss with water brushes, and I carry in this bag about 30. So it can be kind of a working on identification fast rather than having to, fuss around with brush. And today when I did that painting in the car, the water slopped, the brush fell, the wind blew the paper. But this is the kind of, and this is what I have students use. Now, what kind of watercolor do you use?
I use a Daniel Smith set that's called, it's a collaboration with an Australian artist, Jane Blundell, and it's called the Ultimate Mixing Palette. So I use that. I also have a teeny tiny one. Have you seen a type of palette called a pocket palette? It's as tiny as... Yeah. Yes. So I have a pocket palette as well that I filled up with my own color choices. So I use those two sets.
And I see you've got all sorts of color wheels behind
you.
you.
I'm a little bit crazy about color.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Well, it's important because, and that to me is also the advantage of colored pencils, because you're limited and you don't have to think about, well, is it a blue green or a green blue? You've got one. And they're not great, because you can only carry so many. I studied with a colorist. So when I'm doing my paintings for exhibitions, I really think color. But today, it's all about seeing, all about paying attention. It has nothing to do with what's on the paper. So This is,
Oh,
you know,
yes.
these praying.
Praying. Yes, I've heard people talk about them.
Well, they're great because you have 16 colors and they're opaque. So they really mix up well. And then you also have a really nice pan. That was my objection to some of these really little ones, is the mixing pans.
Yes.
But I agree with you. I don't use those water brushes, but I use, and this is the other thing that I tell people, I don't teach watercolor because you've got to have the right brush. It gets, you know, very expensive. So these brushes I've had for years, and this pan happens to have some grass in it and some twigs in it.
Your palette reflects where you've been. I have been, you know, nature journaling on the beach, and then for the next like 3 months, your palette is filled with sand.
Yeah. Well, isn't that like with you too?
That's right.
I was off the Sea Cliffs for years with John Busby and this wonderful group of European artists. We would be out with the gannets for 8 hours off the coast.
Wow.
And I was doing this wonderful painting. I was really, really thrilled with it. And the gannet flew over and went, whap!
Pooped on it.
Pooped on the painting. So, but, you know, that made it real.
Yeah.
I'm not precious. And again, I was talking with this friend today. I'm not a portraitist. I'm not trying to get a feather perfect bird or plant. For me, as you know, and saw with this book, it's a way of seeing.
Yes. And I've noticed over this time since the pandemic that the number of people coming to nature journaling is just enormous. The nature journal community has just blown out since then, and I think that it's because nature journaling is just the perfect thing to ease what we're all going through right now. Have you noticed this, that people are really coming to the practice now?
Well, I went on your line and it's so moved. I was just so thrilled because you set it up and there are people all over the world. And I've talked to Erica a lot, Erico, and a number of others, in that it's a very specific format. And this is what I teach, very specific, because you really do. I shouldn't say you have to, but you can spread out in so many different directions with it.
Yes.
What I do insist with my students is that they put the date down, and the weather, and the place, and even with kids, that they think a little bit about the phases of the moon, the sunrise and sunset, and then we do talk about the habitat, what else is living here. So to me, it's a nature study. What saddens me is that I used to teach in schools all over the place, travel all over the place. Nature journaling within the schools was part of the curriculum. They don't have time or money anymore.
Yeah, that's a real shame. I wonder what's changed in that respect, with the schools being less willing to engage with this when we need it more than ever.
Absolutely. A lot of the teachers say we don't know nature. And so they're not willing to do it. And I've been out of the schools for a while because I've been busy writing books and being with my family. I know there are people out teaching, and I certainly know in the nature centers, there are a lot going on. I think what we're stuck with is the need to teach so many other things in the schools that they don't have time. The world around us is what is so troubling, and I can only read so much of this. This book, actually, I did when Donald Trump was elected. I went to a women's march, and I'm up. Can you hear it's our telephone? I realized that I had to do something to connect people. So I'm working on a book now. I don't know if I'm going to have the time or the energy, and it's about birds. Because during the pandemic, I don't know whether you noticed this, but people would smile and want to tell you about the birds in their backyard and just glow. And birds are so immediate. I mean, you can't glow about butterflies necessarily, but do you have active bird watchers around you?
In my life, not so much. I have in the past, and it's so fun going out with someone very knowledgeable about birds and just soaking up their knowledge. And at university, I definitely did that, and would love to do it more. At the moment, I love going out bird watching, and I, use my little bird book and figure out what I know, but I don't have that experience of going out with someone who can just spot things and tell you all the information.
Yeah, well, that's this friend of mine who did. I mean, we were looking at warblers, and then just there's light bulbs, but there are fewer of them, and I am trying very hard. And he said, "Well, you should include it in your book." And I went, "Well, I can't. The decline of species is." He said, "Well, people need to know about this." I don't. There's so much other decline. I mean, we have cardinals in our neighborhood, and they are so wonderful to hear. That's our common bird. What's your common bird?
My commonest bird, I would say, that I see every day is Australian magpie. But we do have some wonderful ones that come visiting, the Australasian fig bird. In fact, I'll show you one of my pages. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
I knew I had this right by me. So this is, I didn't do it in a journal, but this is a study of the Australasian fig bird. And
interesting head and eyes.
Yeah, he's got this sort of red mask on. This is the female. And one thing that I noticed about this is that I know this bird so well after having done this. And much more deeply than I did before. And even just like taking the time to draw this female's, striated breast. Now, if she flits by me in a second, I know it's her, because I, like, having committed that to paper has committed it to my memory, to myself.
Yes, exactly. And I was talking again with this friend today, because I have friends who, Dave Sibley being one. I have friends who are bird guide artists. I mean, they're really, really, really good, and they sit at their table and they have all the. I did these similar to you in 15 minutes, just wanting to, to be able to get that identification marking. And I agree with you. I was saying to Chris today, it's in my hand.
Yes.
Now, it's not a perfect portrait, but it's those markings. I mean, I just could not remember a magnolia. Do you have these beautiful wood warblers?
I don't think so. Possibly, I'm not sure.
Well,
so pretty.
We call them neotropical. They spend the winter down in Central South America, and they come up here, and they are light bulbs. And this is the magnolia. In England, they're not so bright. I don't know why we have them. We have 35 different species of them, and when they come through, they're just gorgeous.
Talking about this. Sorry, go on. You go ahead.
No, what else do you want to know?
I was going to say that, you have family around you, you've got kids and grandkids, you've been doing this for all these decades, and that like we said, the process of putting something down on paper, it cements it inside you. And I just think that your stack of 55 nature journals must contain so many memories. It must be beautiful to look back on all those memories.
It is. And what I do is, particularly with climate now, I look back to see, was it warmer? Was it colder? What we were doing with the family. And I don't know if you know this one. This is one that I did, again, with a different publisher, but it's about where we live in Vermont. And I wanted to tell people, particularly kids, that nature distinctly does stuff January, February, March, April. A lot of kids think, oh, winter there's snow, and spring there are daffodils. But it's a very slow and specific progression. And I did it for my kids. There I am with my 42-year-old son now. Anyway, I did it with our house in Vermont. Wow. And I don't know. I mean, I'm older now. To be honest with you, I don't know how I did all these books. We'd put the kids to bed. David would go to his desk to do his work, and I would do another book. Now I'm through dinner and I'm curling up reading and going to bed. So these are, and then the other one I wanted to mention, because it means a lot to me, with a different publisher. It's the Celtic festivals. I don't know whether you've seen this one.
I haven't got that one, but I really wanted to talk to you about the Celtic festivals and this idea that your nature journal progresses through the year, this idea of phenology and keeping track of each month, and also these really important things like the equinoxes and the solstice and the celebrations.
Yes. Well, I'm from, Northern Europe. I mean, is your ancestry probably European?
Yes.
These are the celebrations that were pre-Christian. And, the Romans thought very badly of the Celts. These were nomadic people. They lived by the passages of the sun and the moon, and they revered the earth. And they had these celebrations called Imbolc, Beltane, Lunasa, and Samhain. And these were all passages having to do with the sun and the gardens. So I've been fortunate with several of my books to do them with other people. And this one was done with a wonderful guy. And I went to Ireland to study what was known there. And of course, Catholicism dug it all under the ground. So I don't know in Australia if any of these are honored.
Do you know this? The first time I heard about these, this Celtic Wheel of the Year was this year. There's a lady in England, her name is Angela, and she has started this new thing called Season Sketches. And so she's honoring the Celtic Wheel of the Year, and each time one of these points come up, she's explaining it, and she's having people share their nature journal pages about it. So that in its entirety, I guess I'd heard of Beltane, but it's not something that I knew a lot about until Angela started doing that. And so then when I saw it in your book, I was thrilled to realize that you honor these celebrations as well.
Well, we are layers in our understanding of life. And in fact, related to what you were doing, where is it? I do these large panels.
Yes, I wanted to talk to you about these. They're amazing. Can you explain? Can you explain to the viewer what they're all about?
Sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
I have studied color, And I love, as you have, I keep on looking behind you. I love color relationships.
Mm.
And I was very disturbed with 9/11.
Yes.
And I needed somehow to ground myself in color.
Mm.
And these were done in many different sizes and many different pieces of paper. And I stand at a table in meditation with a brush. And I go, what is January? What is February? What is March? And I go all the way down, thinking really the same as this book. I think of the months in terms of color. What are the colors of the year?
I love that.
And so, February is very much an ultramarine blue with some teal and then a splash of yellow. And then March, of course, is all kinds of browns, and April is pinks. And they just flow. So I guess I've been around the block a while. I've taught in many different places, from Alaska to Texas to Maine to California. And I'm just trying to share with people the joy of nature.
I think color is something really special about it, because even before a child can draw something that's representing what they see, before they can write, they can match colors, they can observe colors and pop them down on the page.
Yep. And eyes and faces. And do you have in Australia, excuse me for asking, but do you have a lot of color change throughout the year?
I'm so attuned to this because I love color, and my story with color is that I was nature journaling and making watercolor paintings long before I knew what I was doing with color. And so then I came up against this point where I was trying to match colors and I just was not getting it, especially like deep browns and deep greens. And so I thought I need to know more about this. So I went and studied color, just, resources that I found in books and on the internet, and just realized just how powerful it is to have a little bit of color mixing knowledge. And now I feel totally comfortable to mix anything that I see. And so when I was doing that, I started to be really aware of the colors around me. And so here where I am, it's subtropical. So we have, our landscape is evergreen. So there's a basic green all the time. So I guess that the drama of the color changes is less than where you are, but there's definitely pops of color here and there that come and go. Yeah. So in the winter time, mid-year, so June, July, a lot of wattles come out. They're acacias, and they like little bursts of yellow, and it's so striking. And we have in Brisbane, this place where I live, lots and lots of jacaranda trees. They're not native, but they are everywhere here. And so the whole city gets blanketed in purple in around November. And so, there are these times when there's pops of color everywhere. And it's quite, when you start to tune into it, it's quite beautiful and dramatic.
Well, you must have also sequences of plants flowering and then turning to seed. Yes. So they're not blooming all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. Before I forget, I wanted to make it very clear. I was listening to you. The origins of the Nature Journal.
Yes, please talk about that.
Because it didn't exist before. And I was scratching my head when I first went online to see your abundance. Where did it come from? And sometimes it's hard to know. Do you know the book Diary of an Edwardian Lady by Edith Holden?
Yes, a very famous book. Yes.
That's one place. I have a lot of British books.
Beatrix Potter was an early one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. And I have a bunch of Keith Brocky. It's another one. My bookcase is full of the illustrated journals that came out of Scotland and England and Europe, not this country, not this country. And that's why it's been really hard for me to teach it, because it's not a tradition in this country.
It's a new concept.
Yeah, the tradition in this country is to do beautiful portraits. And the concept of the nature journal that also came, I think, probably from being with Gunnar Brusewitz. But back in 1978, had a friend, and the two of us, he would take a black book and he would write observations about our Audubon sanctuaries, and I would draw them. And the two of us would do this marriage of writing and drawing. And then I was asked to do the back page of our Audubon newsletter called Notes from a Naturalist Sketchbook. And I found I really liked visually on the page the picture and the text. And I think this is the successful thing about it, is that you can do a really crappy drawing. But if you say, what does it say? Jacaranda?
Yeah.
If you say jacaranda, people will go, oh yeah, that's cool. And this to me is the powerful thing working with little kids. I have never had a little kid say to me, I can't draw.
Yes.
Because or I can't write. I mean, the spelling can be pretty bad. But the point of it is not in the field to do a good drawing, but to do a good observation. And so that was the origin in 1978 of the Nature Journal. Did we call it that? I mean, here it's called field sketching. I think, I don't, I'll have to go back and look at this book, but I don't know if it was called, how to set up a nature journal. But, somebody said, well, don't you feel like everybody else is taking you on and, doing your stuff instead of you and not giving you credit? No. I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely, thrilled. I mean, Jack has a whole book on nature journaling. That's cool. That's cool. Because as you said, people are hungry for this.
Yes.
And I'm hungry for it. I mean, life right now is not great. And with my friend today, I was like, can't we just do this every day?
Yes. Do you know, I did a nature journal workshop. I do some at a local place called the Relaxation Centre of Queensland. And someone came into that workshop and she was feeling really stressed, really distressed. And I took her through the workshop. It was 2.5 hours. And at the end, she said, I don't want to do anything except sleep and nature journal for the rest of my life.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's a kind thing. I mean, unlike learning to weave or learning to knit, that you have to do it right. How did you set it up? I'm curious.
The workshop?
Yeah. How did you set up the format for the journal?
Oh, do you mean what I asked them to do on the page?
Yeah.
For that one, because the focus is very much nature journaling for connection and self-care, I didn't emphasize like the landscape or anything. Like, we were actually indoors. And so I first guided them through some silly play exercises like blind contour drawing and, just to get them relaxed. Yeah. And then I had some herbs with me that I'd pulled from the garden. And I just gave each person a sprig of parsley or a sprig of rosemary, whatever it was. And we went through our senses and we documented that through our nature journal. And then we did another one similar with just bits and pieces that I had with me. But in that location, it's often different depending on who's there and what they need at that time. I'm very much in favor of letting it be flexible. And so with that particular group, it didn't end up being a representation of what they were seeing. It was all about what they were feeling. And so they were expressing their feelings and helping like be present and get rid of anxiety and that sort of thing. So with that particular workshop, that's where it went. And other ones is very much like about natural history and that sort of thing. But I'm very much interested in being present with whatever the group needs to make it meaningful.
Yeah. How many were there?
This one was a small group. I think there was maybe 3 or 4. But sometimes it's big and sometimes it's little. But when it's a little group, I can be very present with each person and what they need.
Do you know? Oh gosh, why can't I forget this? I'm drawing a blank. Keep talking. Let me find the book. Do you know Frederick Frank?
Oh my goodness, this is one of my favorite books, and I always bring that into my workshops. Do you want to talk a little about that?
Well, how did you find his book?
That's a really good question. So for me, my nature journaling started years ago when I was very unwell, and I couldn't go anywhere, but I could go into my backyard.
What was your illness?
My illness was chronic fatigue syndrome, but this is a very big umbrella. It's to do with, it's actually called, now we know, after many, many years of seeing doctors, it's something called orthostatic intolerance, and it's a disconnect between the brain and the heart. And it means that I get very dizzy if I'm standing. So I wear compression stockings. Anyway, I've come to a place where my life is like incomprehensibly different from how I was. I was so unwell. And so I was looking for things that would give me calm, that would bring me to the present moment. Because when you're very ill, it's really easy to worry yourself even sicker. And so I think I came to Frederick Frank's book then, and maybe it was just a Google search, I'm not sure, but it was so moving and so in line with what I believe and believe to be very healing. So for those who haven't come across it, this book is all about seeing and drawing as meditation, and the whole book is hand illustrated and handwritten, and it's beautiful.
It's called The Zen of Seeing. Zen seeing, Zen drawing. And I knew him.
Did you?
Yeah, I had a unwell incident, and physical, and I went down to Pachaman Terrace, which is his center, and I was like, how old was I? 29. So it's like, but what made me think of it when you were mentioning contour drawing and blind contour drawing, I didn't know about it until I met him. And in thanks, I had him and his wife Klosky stay in our apartment here, and he did a 2-day drawing workshop on just outlined and modified contours. And yeah, I mean, he was a dentist who became a priest, and he lived the way he believed. And I think those are my teachers, are the people who and that's what I try to do, is really live as I believe. Yes, I guess I'm well known, but I feel like I'm just a vehicle for passing all of this on. And yeah, I went today to pull out books for you, and I went, oh my God.
Yes, this is an important one.
Have I really done all these? Because, this one came out.
Yes, I love this one too. And I know it's an extension of the other, but it's very different. And this is one that I recommend all the time to beginners because it's so accessible.
I guess it's another side of my brain. I love doing books.
Mm-hmm.
And I had these wonderful editors who say, do this, do that, do this, do that. And here we go.
Yes.
And there are many different sort of entry points. And I think the other thing is, and I hope this is true, my drawings are not intimidating. People look at them and go, well, I can do that. And I even have in it my editor's drawing and some of my friends' drawing and some of my students' drawing. I mean, again, I guess, the fundamental of what I want to say to you is, it's what I learned from Frederick Frank. It's a meditation, and it's a way of seeing. And I've just got a life right now that's a little crazy and a little disconnected. And I was so hungry today for that day, being outside and just being with the birds. And it can just be for 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be, a long time. And I was sitting in a doctor's office recently, just having a, annual physical, and I looked up, there was a robin out the window. I mean, it's that connection that, as you were saying, we started talking about this evening. People are hungry, for that joy. And now my granddaughters, it's, Grammy, there's a bunny rabbit out there.
There's something I wanted to talk to you about, because we were talking about this idea of finding solace in just a moment, like a moment of connection with a warbler or whatever it is. And you have this beautiful thing that you call daily exceptional images. And it's something to hold on to, something you can put in your journal that reminds you of a calm, beautiful experience. And I'd love for you to tell about the daily exceptional images.
Well, my editors love it. I mean, they still emailing me. I had to change the name because somebody emailed me and said Agnus Dei, DEI, does this have to do with God?
Oh, okay.
And so I went back to Small Wonders, but now I'm back to Daily Exceptional Images. I need to get back to them. I really, wow, I really, really do. The last few months have been tough, really tough. It came about in 1993. My mother was dying, and I was up in Vermont with small kids, and I needed just something that was shimmering, that was that I could hold on to mentally, if not physically, but just an image. And I don't know where the term daily exceptional images came from. It came from, like so many things, where did nature journaling come from? And Jack is wonderful. He said, I don't take credit for this term. It's really, Claire's. it stuck. And so those images are listed in several of my books. It was, uh, uh, drops of water on a rose, a sunset, a bat going over, an owl. I had them today in my brain that's just all distracted by COVID and husband. We saw something called, let's see if I can get a picture of it. I'd never seen this warbler before, and not a very good drawing. Not a very good drawing at all, but so what?
Yeah.
It's called a blue-winged warbler. It's bright yellow, and it was just up on this snag. And I find with students and myself, when you're drawing, you're not thinking of anything else.
Yes.
When I was drawing that warbler and being with that warbler. And the wonderful thing about the journal is I can refer back to that.
Yes.
I have it here.
Yes.
And I can also refer back to some happy times with my grandkids. To me, the journal is a story of my life.
Yes.
There are some demonstrations of, how to draw a tree in here. But it's a walk. It's a walk through my life. And the daily exceptional images, I should be doing them because I haven't had any.
Yeah. This practice is so valuable. It reminds me of something. Actually, I've got it right here on my desk. It sits on my desk. This is a little envelope, and I've written on it joys. And these are my version of the daily exceptional images. And these were from when I was very, very sick. And most of my time was spent.
Were you home with your family? Who was taking care of you?
So my then husband was taking care of me. I didn't have my son at that time, but he was my carer. I was very, very unwell. And so I was in bed, most of the day. And it was hard for me to keep up, keep my spirits up. And so I used to get these little pieces of paper, and I would look for a joy in my day, and I would write it on these pieces of paper. And then I would get a piece of thread and a needle, and I threaded them onto a chain. And so I had this growing chain of joys hanging from my window. And every time I felt sad or lost, I would look over at that growing chain of joys, and it really, really helped me.
That's beautiful.
So these are my daily exceptional images, and I think that they just are so valuable. This is a nature related one, so they might have been something to do with an experience I had with my family or something in nature. This one is 4th of the 7th, 2012, and it says wattle flowers. It must have, this is midwinter. Wattle flowers blooming on the side of the road, lemony yellow against the pale green of the freshly emerged leaves. The fullness of the blossoms creates a fullness inside of me. So it's a simple little thing, but it's something to hold on to. And these...
you can also read it over and over and over again. You have it there. There's a book that I read about a woman who had also a terrible illness that was also combined with a sleep, and somebody gives her a plant. Is it called something of the snail? You can
Yes, I have this book, The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating.
Yeah.
I love it. Actually, I received this book when I was unwell, and it was so magical. Sorry, I interrupted you, Claire.
No, that's there are these wonderful books out there, stories of people who are, and I think I've just been so involved with just, I mean, we're living in Cambridge, we're living in Vermont,
Mm.
back and forth and back and forth, and doctor's appointments. And, I sort of, kind of forgetting, doing the laundry, doing the cooking, doing the cleaning.
Life can get like that, can't it?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you because, nature journaling connects us with one or several special places, and we get to know them. If you commit to nature journaling over a lifetime, you get to know these places really deeply. And one of those special places is a local cemetery for you. And I'd love for you to describe this place and what it's meant to you over all these years.
You're going on a long time. I mean, if you can do it this long. The advantage of Mount Auburn Cemetery is that it's a 6-minute drive away, a 40-minute walk. And it's, 175 acres, and it's rolling hills. And there are birds there, there are plants there, there are trees there, there are rabbits there, there are turkeys there, and it is quiet. It's quiet. And the wonderful thing is there are these roads, and you don't have to get out of your car. So it can be kind of a blind. And also, weather, I can be there in the winter, in the snow, in the rain. And it is a form of meditation. Yesterday, in fact, in order to just have some, and I disappeared. Nobody knows I'm there. Nobody knows I'm there. And I drew these birds, and then I got out of the car and went up on one of the slopes and fell asleep.
Your body needed that.
Oh my gosh. But there are owls there, and it's it's a sanctuary. I mean, there are memorials there. My parents are actually cremated there. And there are funerals going on all the time. So the idea of the cemetery goes back to 1831, when it was founded on this principle of death can be also nature and healing and beauty. And to allow people to have that in grief, to have a place that's beautiful in all seasons. And so it's almost, it was like going there for meditation.
Yeah.
And for many, many years. So it's in all my books.
Yeah.
And I teach there, and I have colleagues there, and I've done a lot of booklets for them on birds and birding and on nature for kids. And I think that's the other thing about my range. My range is really broad, from, little kids to old kids. And the really interesting, exotic teaching I did was way out in Galena, Alaska, which is on the Yukon River. And they wanted me to come out because everybody in the school had a copy of this.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. Well, they have a Fish and Wildlife Center there, National Fish and Wildlife. And, the teacher had given, one of the administrators had given it to all the teachers. Galena, Alaska. I'm going to get out there. And I love the kids. They were they're really outback. They're native peoples living on salmon and moose. So I'll go anywhere. Just to, and I learn as much as I teach. I mean, I've got a bunch of teaching coming up here now. I hope I can do it. Curiosity is at the bottom of my teaching.
Yeah.
So the first thing I do in a workshop, all ages, we set up the page: time, date, place, weather, upper left. And then we talk about what we think we're going to see outside in terms of the animals, the plants, the birds, just to get people thinking. And then I've worked with Jane Goodall.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that was a pretty interesting experience. I mean, she's magnificent. But I respect her intense inspiration to listen. So everybody goes outside, not speaking. You have this train of kids going down a hallway, and I'm with them. I've got my journal too, and the teacher has to participate. Really critical, even if she's bucking or he. We go outside, and maybe I'll only have 45 minutes, but we listen. And then we write down what we're hearing. It could be wind. It could be a bird. It could be an airplane. But we're getting into the place. And then we write down maybe 3 or 4 colors that we're seeing. And then we draw a map of the sky. To me, the clouds are really important because that indicates weather. And also, if I had people in longer residencies actually draw a map. If you're in California, what are the states to the north and south and the east? And then it becomes like Sherlock Holmes. What is here? What can you see? And kids draw and write. And the easy one to start off right away is dandelion. and I draw with them. So I'm drawing actually upside down because I want them to see. I'm drawing with a marker. They see it's really crappy. And that is so unintimidating because I'm with them. I'm curious with them. And it's not how well we draw, but what we see. And ants, we'll draw the ants. We'll draw a blue jay. We'll draw a chickadee. We'll draw a squirrel. They fill their pages. And so I guess that's what I mean by being a naturalist. You're seeing the elements in the whole place. And what saddens me is I have to explain what a naturalist is in so many schools because they think, oh, you run around naked.
And nature.
It's I try to say, well, you know what a chemist is, you know what a dentist is, and you know what an optometrist is. Do you know, naturalist is somebody who studies nature. And I make it very clear, it's all nature.
What do you tell someone if they say, I don't have nature near me? What's your answer to that?
If they say what?
If they say, I don't have nature near me, I can't access nature.
Oh, I love it. That's one of my favorite ones. Of course I do. There's the sky.
Yes.
There's the weather. There are birds, I got in this big argument with Chris today. Pigeons are interesting.
Yes.
They're pigeons. They're starlings. There are house sparrows. They're ants.
Yeah.
They're snails. I think the thing is, and I find this over and over and over and over again, and it's what you're doing, which is so super, is the door to opening all of this is so easily open.
Yes.
It just, I don't know anything about nature, and then whoa.
Yes.
So what you're doing is, you don't need a graduate degree. Yes, now I have to admit, to do this book on birds, I'm using Googling constantly. It's all online now.
Yes, it's so different. Even from when I was at university, you look something up on a catalog and then you go to the book and you open and you look at the actual article, not not an online article, but it is what it is. And technology, I mean, in my experience, it's allowed me to meet people and make amazing connections and friendships with people far, far away from here who I haven't met personally face to face, but with whom I have an amazing connection. So I'm really grateful to that. I think technology can go both ways. It can be
we found that earlier on in the first hour.
Yes, exactly. So we spent an hour trying to get here. But now look what's happened. We've had this conversation, and I just feel like so grateful to hear your story and to share this time with you. Thank you so much for being here.
Bless you. Keep in touch.
Yeah.
You know how to reach me.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Clare. I felt so happy and excited to speak with her. She's been an absolute inspiration to so many people. And as I said, her book was the one all those years ago that opened this world to me and showed me how simply paying attention to nature and recording my observations on paper could be one of the most profound experiences of a lifetime. So International Nature Journaling Week is coming to a close now. It's been such a touching experience to have a week of sharing and connection, and I want to thank everyone who's been involved. All the resources will stay up on the website so that you can come back to them anytime you'd like to revisit the prompts or the workshops and videos. Thank you so much for listening. See you next week.